refresh your iPad?
I did about an hour ago.
Okay, is that good?
You can probably do it
Okay.
again. They updated about 2:30.
Okay. I usually just
Are we all ready on there? Everybody? Adam ready? Good? Chris, you good to go? You good? I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Bueller? The date today is 13th of July. The time is 3:04. With us today, we have Alderwoman Bade, Alderman Warman, Alderman Bugg, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item on the agenda is 23-0485, approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on June 15, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve?
motion.
Got a motion by Alderman Warman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Bade. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Next one is 23-0517, approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on June 29th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion by Alderman Warman. We have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman
I
Bade.
have questions and comments on this.
Alderman Bugg, go ahead.
Thank you. On June 29th, 2023, this body, Finance Committee, was set to meet in this chamber at 3:00 p.m. We came forward. There was not a quorum at that time. I went back and reviewed the video of this, and I was a little bit alarmed. So I have a question for council. Yeah, okay. So we just spoke earlier. Ms. Lang was here and you were not.
On the 29th?
Yes.
That's accurate. Yes.
Okay. So I say this really more so for the benefit of the aldermen. I want to protect the aldermen. The aldermen are elected officials by the people. The chairs of the committees are responsible for what goes on in the meetings, any procedure and anything that goes forward. During that meeting, when a quorum was not found, we went forward with presentations asking for public comment. Those presentations happened, questions were asked, and we actually called for an adjournment at 3:47. Let me read to you out of the state Illinois Open Meetings Act. A meeting is defined when you have a gathering, whether in person, by video, audio conference, telephone, etc., other means of contemporaneous interactive communications of a majority of a quorum of the members of a public body held for the purpose of discussing public business, or for a 5-member public body, a quorum of the members of a public body held for the purpose of discussing public business. Now, most of us know up here that we are a home rule body. So that's going to be my question to legal. I know what the rules are under Robert Rules of Order, and I'll say right now, and I've asked this before, I'll ask it again. This body, the aldermen, are in desperate need of a Robert Rules of Order training. I've asked Mr. Veenstra, I've asked many people. We are in desperate need. We've been trying to get one since before COVID. And really, like I said, I addressed this to the two gentlemen who are here, who are both committee chairs, because they're ultimately responsible for what happens. So under Robert Rules of Order, when there is not a quorum, it says, 11th edition, if there's a failure to achieve a quorum, the chair of the membership meeting, normally the board president or the person chairing, calls the meeting to order, announces the absence of the quorum, then entertains a motion to adjourn to a later date. That is what is supposed supposed to happen. Now, I'll ask you, because like I said, we're home rule. So we are allowed to make up additional rules to Robert Rules of Order, but when it is silent, we follow Robert Rules of Order. So I ask you in this public forum, what is the ordinance as far as quorums and public meetings?
I don't know if there is, Patrick Collins with the Law Department, I don't know if there is any ordinance specifically towards quorum. The Roberts Rules of Order govern that, so does the Open Meetings
That's what I
Act.
thought.
There is, no final action can be taken when there isn't a quorum. Presentations, discussions, any of those things can occur.
Say that again?
Any of those things can occur at a non-quorum meeting. You just can't take final action on it. Presentations can come up, information can be presented, documents can be there, people can give discussions, individuals from the public can come, public comment, but none of that is the city, the alderman taking any official action. That you need a quorum for. But for the things to go forward from that, that's why that's allowed to happen.
Okay.
And the other one is that I can look into see about some Roberts Rule training. I think additionally, we have some materials that might be beneficial as well. Let me look into that. And I
We
can get
need an
back to you on that.
outside person to come in. I'll give you some suggestions.
Sure.
All right, so we look at this differently. I mean, I'm reading the state law, and I'm reading Robert Rules of Order.
Sure. Which section are you referring to?
Robert Rules of Order, 11th edition, page 349. Failure of a quorum. Should call the meeting to order, announce the absence of a quorum, entertain a motion to adjourn to a later date.
Mr. Alexander, would you like to chime in before?
If I could chime in, I've been in local government for 33 years and worked for Aurora as a home rule municipality for the last 23 years. The key always has been, is any final action taken at a meeting when there's no quorum? And there's always been discretion given to the chairman. Robert's Rules of Orders, a Robert's Rule of Order is what we traditionally follow. However, so long as no final action was taken, and basically the chair has the prerogative to allow presentations for those that are at the meeting, exactly what happened last week. So there was no violation or harm done, and so that's why I'm just wondering, we know what happened last week. We had a unfortunate passing of one of the members. We had an emergency from another member. We had another member on vacation. And so I think the chair had the right, certainly could have adjourned the meeting, but having had staff there, having seen what was presented, again, it was all informational only. So,
The section you're looking at here on page 349 is that's when a meeting has been called to order where there is quorum and then they lose quorum. Let's say, as of right now, 3 people had to leave or 2 people left, right? You lose quorum. That's when you have to adjourn the meeting because you can't do any meeting further after that. The important provisions on this on the page before, when it talks about that you can obtain quorum, getting quorum, and any of the other parts for it. The section you're looking for is right before that about proceedings in the absence of a quorum. The section you're referring to on 349 is when there was a quorum, a meeting started, and then quorum is lost. That's when you would have to adjourn the meeting at that point.
Okay, please enlighten us. What does it say when you don't have a quorum?
In the absence of a quorum, business can be transacted, but you cannot. There's a prohibition against transacting business in the absence of a quorum that cannot be waived even by unanimous consent, and the notice cannot be validly given. If important business that should not be delayed until a regular meeting occurred, an absence should fix the time for an adjourning meeting and then adjourn. If instead the members present take action informally in the absence of a quorum, they do so at their own risk. Although the assembly can later ratify the action, it is under no obligation to do so. That they can have the meeting, they can't take any final action. They can attempt to do that, and if they do, then you can have the follow-up procedure to that. But that's the prohibition, is that no formal action be taken. So if the presentation or any of the agenda items that were on there were then heard, proper notice was given, they can proceed on that, but they can't take any action on it.
Okay, well, I read that a little bit differently, the public discussion portion, because that's what the Illinois Code says. There will not be public discussion. That's the reason when I listened to the tape, I thought it was just going to be presentations. Well, actually, I thought you were going to stop the meeting, adjourn, but it went forward, the presentations happened, and then questions were asked, and they went back and forth.
So what you're referring to is section 102 for the definition of meeting. That's just defining what a meeting is. That's not the quorum portion of it or conducting business. That the definition of a meeting is just that. It's defining what the meeting is, not what happens at the meeting, the quorum at the meeting, or how business can be conducted at the meeting.
Well, it says the meeting is of a majority of a quorum of the members of the public body held for the purpose of discussing public discussions.
Correct. That's for the definition under the Open Meetings Act.
Right.
When a meeting
There was
under
no
that
quorum.
definition is subject to the open meetings requirement.
Right. And there was no quorum,
Correct.
which we have very officially.
But there's no violation. That you can't conduct official business. That's the prohibition.
Okay. You say the word official business. I don't read that in the state law, but we could differ on that and we can discuss it later. I'm going to vote no on approving these minutes. I want them preserved though, but I'm going to vote no.
All right, so again, let's go back to this now. We could figure that out later on about going forward, but based on what happened last week, this was a recommendation from legal. We have an emergency happen an hour before the meeting. Everybody was here. I felt compelled, the fact that we could extra information, even though we were not going to vote on it, knowing that we would vet the whole process of committee of the whole as we normally do. So in my mind, there was nothing inappropriate because the same presentation was presented here and there, so nobody missed out on anything. And they were absolutely free to ask the questions that they asked. So that's kind of why we went with that, because we had the approval from legal to do so. So anytime you can gather extra information, it's not a violation. I thought it was a good idea since we're all here anyway. Going forward, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Can I just
Aye.
say
Go ahead,
one thing
I'm
before
sorry.
we go?
Alderman
So, and I just want to make it clear for myself too. I mean, that's the reason we have council here, so we don't violate anything, correct? So we, as aldermen, rely on you guys to make sure that we don't basically break the law or do anything wrong, correct? I mean, and we consulted you and I don't know if it was you or Deb or whoever was here, but they said we weren't violating any procedure or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, we all knew it was just an open discussion. And that was it. We weren't trying to approve anything, pass anything, or do anything like that. So we rely on you guys to do that, and that's exactly what happened, correct?
That's correct, Alderman. But for the record, this item that we're voting on is the approval of the minutes from that meeting. And those, we preserve those, we say those, we have all those standard procedures.
Although I will vote no, there is a correction. There is no, there's no adjournment in the, which kind of leads me to say we weren't having a meeting. There is no adjournment in your minutes. There was a motion on the video, but there's no adjournment.
I can make a comment on that. Deb Lang advised me as the clerk to end the meeting as presentation ended, to not adjourn it because it wasn't a fully quorum meeting.
That's correct. I don't believe, you can't take any action either way. It wasn't an official meeting. There's no action taken, so.
It wasn't a meeting, it wasn't.
All right, so having said that, are these minutes valid?
Yes.
I
Then
have a
the-
question.
Go ahead, Alderwoman Babe.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't present at the meeting, so is it,
You could still vote.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
All right, any further questions on that? Hearing none, we had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that, it passes 3-1. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak?
We do have a few speakers that, or a couple speakers that did sign up to speak.
Would you read the rules, please?
Just a minute. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the Finance Committee for up to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair for the purpose of maintaining order may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the Finance Committee shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during the public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting.
Madam Clerk, would you read the name of the first speaker?
Kim Wooden.
Ms. Wooden, you have 3 minutes, and you may begin now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am here on behalf of La Quinta de los Reyes, which is also known as Lazaro RS Corporation. La Quinta has been a downtown staple for almost 20 years. It's one of the first restaurants and bars since I've been in the downtown, which is probably almost even longer than anyone in here these days. And it has lasted longer than if you can remember Rolling on the River, Los Cabos, and several other small restaurants after that. La Quinta is a unique niche for Mexican restaurants in the downtown. I would consider it one of the more upscale restaurants for Paramount patrons and anyone that comes in from outside of the city of Aurora. They are one of the few restaurants in the downtown who are actually open consistently for lunch and always have been since the moment they opened their doors. And I'm sure would never close for the summer. The restaurant has always gone above and beyond to entertain its diners, has live mariachi and other jazz music and interactive music, and they make fresh guac and salsa right at your table. I'm not sure if you all know this, but they were actually voted the best of the Naperville Sun and the Beacon News for Mexican food back in May. The restaurant and staff has always been very helpful in participating in any downtown taste or events or other initiatives that go on in the downtown for any non-for-profit. They're continually making improvements to the restaurant and trying to find good renters for the storefront that's just to the east of their location. Personally, Jesus is a current downtown board member. He has served several terms and an active participant on several committees. Most importantly, the Broadway business owners and helping Clara Diaz from Balderas Beauty Salon with painting the windows and helping with the Christmas decorations. As a downtown business owner, property owner, and friend, I would be in favor of the city approving the redevelopment agreement to Lazaro RS Corporation.
Madam Clerk, would you call the next speaker?
Rebecca Axtell.
Ms. Axtell, you
Hello.
have 3 minutes, and you may begin now.
Thank you very much. I'm here to speak in support of Agenda Item 230533 in support of La Quinta de los Reyes and the redevelopment project ahead. I love that building. If you go to the Facebook group Aurora Then and Now, there is a little bit of history. It was built as the Grand Lodge for the Knights and Ladies of Honor. If you scroll down, here's a little quote about what that organization was like in the 1800s. It was open to acceptable white men and women of the ages of 18 through 50 of a reputable profession, business, and occupation. Obviously, that was a sign of the times back then. And on a positive note, membership dues helped to provide health care, life insurance savings accounts, and funeral expenses for its members. So that's pretty cool. So the goal was to give all moral and material aid in its power. Now here we were over 100 years later in the middle of a pandemic, And I was working with the food pantry at that time, and we had truckloads of extra milk. The pipelines of food distribution were totally jammed. And Jesus said, you can use our truck to deliver food to neighborhoods in need on the east side of Aurora. So suddenly we were in a collaboration providing emergency assistance in the middle of the pandemic. And I think that moment in time was really telling. They answered our calls. They were there to help. It's not just a restaurant. It's absolutely a community center. It's a hub of support. They offer special holiday events, a go-to upscale location for memory-making moments and anniversaries and celebrations. And whenever I'm there, it's like the Cheers of Aurora for me. Everybody knows my name, and I feel welcome. I enjoy conversations about cross-cultural issues, art, science, agriculture, and yes, the downtown drama. So I'm so grateful that to hear that Lane Allen and his architects are on board with this project. Absolutely can't find a better architect that understands the intricacies of working with the historic buildings and all of the code issues necessary to take these buildings to the next level so that this community can be nourished and supported for another 100 years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call? I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, would you call the next speaker?
No other speakers.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, did Gil?
Oh,
Because Gil signed up, but he didn't say he wanted to speak. Do you want to take him anyway?
yeah, okay. Mr. Rios, go ahead. We had you signed up. We checked the wrong box, but go
We
ahead.
have time to say a few words or no?
Absolutely, go ahead. You have 3
Okay,
minutes.
my
You
name
may
is Gil
begin now.
Rios, and on behalf of the La Quinta de los Reyes, a restaurant that's been around here for 20 years, always helping the community, always volunteering, helping out all the non-for-profit organizations, doing supporting the Dia de los Niños, Los Reyes Magos, also helping out at all kinds of volunteering. They provide the best food in town and also have a great staff that takes care of us at all times. They are improving their business with the redevelopment, and we hope that everybody that has not come out there comes out and helps support them. They hope to have them here for another 20 years or more. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. First item is 23-0486, a resolution authorizing execution of a First amended agreement for provision of services at the City of Aurora's Financial Empowerment Center with the Neighborhood Project.
Good afternoon, Marty Shanahan, SHA and AHA, Chief Community Services Officer. Since 2019, the City of Aurora Financial Empowerment Center has provided free one-on-one financial services delivered by counselors through an agreement with the Neighbor Project. The current agreement runs through December 2023 with an optional one-year extension to December 2024. To date, there have been approximately $900,000 in savings and almost $2.5 million in debt reduction. The proposed resolution amends some of the terms of the original agreement. I'm going to highlight some of these changes for you. The primary change is the way that we, the city, is billed by the Neighbor Project. An attachment to past agreements was rather involved and had a very detailed spreadsheet with cost breakdowns. Because of the way it was drafted, the Neighbor Project bills to the city included but not limited to the following: payroll, overhead, costs associated with healthcare, retirement plans, marketing, outreach costs, credit pulls, software tech support, subscriptions, phones, trainings, out-of-pocket expensive, administrative costs, travel, and contractor per diem expenses, all the way down to $1.75 tablecloths. To say a review of the bills was time-consuming would be an understatement. Review took many staff hours to review and process, not to mention the time needed for the Neighbor Project to compile all this information on behalf of the city. So rather than have this minute detail, we're going to an hourly billing rate, which is all-inclusive of the previous itemization details. This will enhance overall efficiency, save time for the Neighbor Project and city staff. It is anticipated there will not be a financial or budgetary impact with the proposed amendment. Furthermore, expenses with the NEPA project are actually trending lower through June 2023. So although there is a maximum amount listed in the First Amendment agreement, we are not expected to reach that amount in fiscal year 2023. Again, to summarize, this is not a change in the amount billed by the neighbor project, but rather how we are billed. Another modification as compared to the original is the amended agreement codifies what was contemplated when council approved the CFFRV, Community Foundation for Fox River Valley, to be the fiscal agent to hold grant funds and other donations back in 2022. So in the original agreement, the neighbor project could actually hold the grant funds, and then the city would deduct these grant funds held by the neighbor project from its billing. The First Amendment agreement also details the combined fundraising efforts of both. Without going into too much detail, neighbor project and the city will collaborate on fundraising efforts, and if the neighbor project receives funds for the financial counseling, they're going to be deposited with CFFRV within 14 days. There are a few other tweaks, including a clarification on CDBG billing to meet the city's requirements, insurance and indemnification language consistent with other city agreements, and modifications with the scope of work, Exhibit A, for consistency to what the financial counselors are already doing. The First Amendment agreement does not change the overall premise of the FEC is to provide free one-on-one counseling. To date, Aurora FEC counselors have provided over 2,300 clients with over 4,000 professional counseling sessions and almost 2,000 outcomes produced by FEC counselors. So also here we have, just so you're aware, Tasha Moss. She is new to the Innovation Division as the Program Manager for FEC. And also we have Rick and Valeria. Valeria is the Aurora FEC Manager, both here if you have any questions specific to them.
Does the committee have any questions or comments? Well, hearing none, do we have a motion? We have a motion approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, did you say aye? All opposed? And that passes 4-0. Thank you, Marty. Next item on the agenda is 23-0519, resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant award of $192,779 from the State of Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, with the city to contribute $192,779 in matching funds to host Luminosity, a month-long celebration of light to be held from September 6, 2024 through October 5th, 2024.
Thank you. Jen Byrne, Director of Public Art. So the Luminosity Festival is designed to attract tourism and make downtown Aurora even more of a destination. It brings visitors for a month-long festival that celebrates Aurora's history as the City of Lights. This festival is modeled after dozens around the nation that have been going for about 10 years, including Canal Convergence in Scottsdale, Arizona, Blink in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Light City in Baltimore, Maryland. This grant will provide $192,779 of funding for the festival, and the city will provide a one-to-one match. Matching costs will come from projects already included in the public art budget that will be showcased or unveiled during the Luminosity Festival as allowed by the grant, and routine event expenses included in the public art and our special events budgets. Grant funds will cover the costs associated with temporary displays of medium and large-scale artistic lighting installations and projection mapping. Grant funds will also cover costs associated with an augmented reality path and associated digital markers to lead visitors through downtown and track attendance. Finally, grant funds will cover the cost of roving performers to entertain crowds during the festival's two-day finale. Matching costs will be tracked in 2023 using funds already allocated in the fiscal year 23 budget. Both reimbursable costs and matching costs will be included in the fiscal year 24 budget. Due to DCEO's requirement to process the grant award before the close of the state's fiscal year 23 on June 3rd, 2023, the grant agreement was signed prior to this resolution request. No grant project activities will occur until the agreement has been approved by City Council.
Questions or comments from the council? Alderwoman Day?
Thank you, Chairman. Is there a particular reason why we are choosing September through October?
Yes,
Luminosity.
because for families to enjoy the lighted activities, we're looking for later in the year when the sun sets earlier, but early enough that the weather will be more reliable.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to see was like if you can add examples of other cities, what they've done for our committee of the whole meeting. If you could add some examples as pictures attachment, it will be great. It will be helpful for everyone to see.
Absolutely. I actually have a couple pictures with me, if you'd like me to hand them to you. but-
Okay. And that will be great if you could attach them.
Absolutely.
We were going to do something with the lights other than this program. I'm not sure in downtown Aurora, when is that happening? Is that happening this year?
So last year, a decision package was approved to do the Light Festival this year. With the Warhol programming, we chose to redirect those funds to that summer programming. There were two reasons that ended up being a good idea. One is it gave us more time for fundraising to augment what the grant and the city will be able to cover. And this DCO grant, I believe the award was scheduled to be announced in December of last year, and it wasn't announced until late April. So this allows us to really do a lot more, so it worked out. But that's perhaps what you're thinking of.
I'm glad that you're planning so ahead so you can get the best from the country and put a show in Aurora. Yeah. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Mr. Alexander, you have something?
Let me just briefly say that when Jen brought this to our attention, the presentation was terrific, and she'll have that same presentation for COW. But if you notice in the background, in the first paragraph, there are significant communities that have done something very similar in Scottsdale, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. And keeping with our theme of trying to attract people to the downtown, which has that ripple effect to restaurants and bars and other sites, this has had that very successful effect in these communities. And so when we had the opportunity with our grant writers' assistants and the team to apply for this, and we got it, and then bringing on the decision for Warhol, it gives us now 2 consecutive years to spotlight our downtown, to work towards making this hopefully a annual type of an effect, and something that these other towns are known for this type of creative artwork based on lighting. And so we're very excited about the opportunity.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Alderman Buck.
was that initial presentation, was that a video?
I think if I recall, Jen, it was a mix. You had you had still pictures and then maybe some video, so.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. That would be excellent, because I don't want this just uploaded to our iPads. I want everybody to see it. This is going to be fantastic. So
We'll do that.
some video up here next Tuesday, and that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question since we're on this, and I don't think you'll be able to answer that, but Mr. Alexander, or Mr. Minnick, or even Mr. Dick can answer it. So when we do these different things downtown, the Warhol, we're going to do that, special things for art to bring tourism down. Do we ever measure what collateral benefits? So yeah, probably going to go to more bars and restaurants and shop a little bit. But do we ever have like a metric to say, hey, when we had that Warhol thing, we were spiking another 5 or 6% of people coming down on a normal Thursday? Do we ever track that kind of stuff?
We do to a certain extent. Unfortunately, we can't track food and beverage specifically because of the prohibition on access to that specific information. But special events, Mike Nelson, his team, Downtown Services, our Aurora Downtown folks, for all their events, just like Cocoa Crawl or anything, they do have an ability to measure and track, just like we do our parades and that. So we also rely on the communication with our restaurants and businesses anecdotally. We've got city representatives that are on different committees. And so when things go well, we hear about it, and when they don't go well, we hear about it. So we're very confident, even like the initial Warhol night was a success. We've got one tonight, and based on what we've seen in these other cities, you can definitely see a difference doing these types of events and creating yet another reason to come to downtown Aurora.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I ask is because we're all about finance. So, obviously, if we spend $200,000 for an event, we'd like to say, hey, are we going to get a little bit of that back? Or if we don't get it this year, are we building for the future? So just trying to make sure that, we're putting out money, but we're getting at least some of it back, whether it be concrete or exposure or whatever, it's just to make sure.
I think it's an indirect and a direct benefit.
Sure.
So we'll try as best we can to determine the direct ones,
Yeah.
but we know there's an indirect benefit because we'll attract for sure people who have never been downtown here before, and they get exposed to other restaurants, parks, and
Right.
they see the Paramount, art studios and all that, so it's a mix.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Unfortunately, we can't track the food and beverage tax or the sales tax as granularly as pulling it down to a weekend or two or a particular night or anything along those lines. Those totals are actually reported on a monthly basis. So we may be able to, year over year, look at a month in which an event was happening and say we saw an increase, and we can make an assumption, but we would not be able to quantify that directly or exactly.
Well, at least that's something,
Yes.
We could break it down, as much as we could. Mr. Dick, do you have something to add to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Alderman. I thought I would just add to the conversation, another partner that we work with is Invest Aurora, and they have a program called Placer, which tracks people's cell phone data. And we're able to track visitors to the downtown on specific dates and times. It was very successfully used for Chris Crindle Market, and I know there was a report that Invest pulled together showing where everybody came from all over the country for Chris Crindle Market, how long they stayed, where they went to before and after. So it might not show specifically how much they spent at the locations, but we could definitely see how many people are being attracted to the downtown.
I would say whatever information we could gather, it'd be kind of nice to have in the future, say, hey, we brought X amount of people downtown from maybe outside the region, whatever. This is just kind of nice to know for us, so, we could keep promoting as we're doing right now, as we do as individuals anyway, so that would help out if we can get that, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, I just follow up on that. It's a good point, Alderman Franco. And I think one of the things we learned in the past from Festival of Lights, we always, there wasn't a charge for that, but we knew how many cars went through, people got exposed to Aurora, people came from all over, literally, all over the suburbs and the city to come to our Festival of Lights in December. And then the next time, when you have Chris Crindle Market, they say, well, that's in Aurora. I was there for Festival of Lights. They did a great job. I'll go to this next event. Or now the third, Luminosity. I went to Festival of Lights. I went to this. Now they're having something downtown. And we're familiar with Aurora. We're promoting our city. So I think it's excellent.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Warman, second by Alderman Bug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is 23-0529, a resolution authorizing the renewal of a line of credit in the amount of $10 million with Old Second National Bank for a one-year term expiring on June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer for the city. The city has two lines of credit that we utilize for short-term city financing needs, primarily contributions to economic development projects or land purchases when issuing bonds is not practical. We maintain a line of credit with Old Second National Bank in the amount of $10 million and an additional line of credit with Fifth Third Bank in the amount of $15 million. The Old Second National Bank line of credit is in an expired state and it needs to be renewed. Currently, there's a balance of $6.688 million on the line of credit, but we do plan to pay it down over the coming months with future bond issuances, and as we receive various loan repayments from developers and projects financed. During the past year, we did pay down this particular line of credit by approximately $1.2 million. And we've had no draws on this line of credit since March of 2021. Staff does recommend renewal on a one-year term of the line of credit, and the terms will be in accordance or consistent with the terms that we have on the line of credit currently. The interest rate will be based on the secured overnight financing rate, also known as the SOFR, plus 2%. Currently, that rate is approximately 7% based on these parameters. As I mentioned, we do typically take a look at the line of credit as we do our bond issuances. We are planning to have a late year bond issuance in 2023. And as part of that analysis, we will take a look at the line of credit and determine whether or not this is the best vehicle to continue to meet these short-term financing needs. There are no other significant changes to the terms, and staff does recommend approval of the renewal of the Old Second line of credit for a one-year term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, we have a motion?
Welcome to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Warman, second by Alderman Bug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 23-0533, a resolution authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement providing for a forgivable and non-forgivable loan to Lazaro RS Corporation Incorporated, operating under the assumed business name of La Quinta de los Reyes.
I had this problem the other day. I'll go on my toes a little bit. Good afternoon, everybody. Aldermen, Alderwomen, thank you for listening to us today. We're here to ask for the approval of a resolution to facilitate the construction of an addition which is an enclosed patio for La Quinta de los Reyes, and the necessary infrastructure to support this addition and to support the longevity of the restaurant. We're going to speak about this in detail. We've got the architect, Lane Allen, to speak about how this is going to happen in detail, and John Curley also to provide some detail. The property was recently purchased by Claudia Urrutia, who is a partner with Jesus Sanchez in the ownership of the restaurant. The restaurant is obviously very, very well known to everybody here. But what we're doing here today, really, aside from moving ahead with this addition, is supporting a Latina-owned business, and one where a woman has purchased the building. And it's very important about this point because by purchasing the building, it's the kind of the reason that we're here today. And I just, as a little side note, I know we've kind of been inundating you recently with a lot of different proposals. It's really a timing issue because the building was recently purchased, even though the restaurant has been there 20 years. So really what's been happening is for 20 years, this restaurant has been paying rent, often at a number that was very much similar, if not above, the combined debt service that they're going to be paying now. And yet, they kept the restaurant open and going during that time, but really were not able to move ahead with this kind of improvement. This is the kind of improvement you're only going to do if you own the building. And I know when I was helping a bank years back, when banks lend, although not necessarily to restaurants, but what they always do is look at owner-occupied buildings, because it's meaningful to have an owner-occupied building, because you know that they're going to be there over the long run, whether the building's sold, whether the lease is renewed or not. But I think it is notable that despite the fact that they were renters for the better part of 20 years, that the restaurant continued to be open during that time. I think the people who spoke earlier spoke about the history more eloquently than I am able to do. The building was built in 1912 and really saw some hard times in the 1990s when the restaurant came and began upgrading the building. When you think about the significance of the building itself, and again, some people spoke eloquently about the beauty of the building, I just want to remind everybody what we all know, it's the gateway to the city from the north. You know, we come in, we pass Jake's, also a landmark here, but we pass Jake's, River Edge, the train station. Very soon, we're going to be seeing the DAC building, the Township building, the Fire Museum, a lot going on right there. And then we hit this restaurant, La Quinta. With the addition, you're going to see really like a living billboard coming in, because you're going to come in and you're going to be able to see this coming in. So I want you to visualize it. Again, Lane will show you in more detail, and I hope at the committee the whole, we might be able to have some flyovers in a kind of video setting to even show you better. But this is as Alderman O'Connor used to remind us, it's a finance meeting, so we're going to keep it like that. But it's also the anchor over there to Broadway, and there's a lot of plans in process right now in terms of the future of Broadway. But this will always be the anchor of Broadway over there coming into the city. And when you think about an event like Chris Kindle Market and the goal of bringing people not only to the market but into the city, this is really the arrow pointing into the city. And again, the way this is located with the addition here, this will point right into the city. It's also anchoring New York Street. And when you think about what's going on New York Street, this is going to become more important going forward. We all know that the casino is going to be moving. So the property that the casino has, obviously a lot of it is water-based, but there's going to be a property that's still going to be left over where we hope to have a large apartment building built soon. And this will be the closest property to that. And then we'll have the garage, which will be redone at some point across the street. Jumping back and forth between the streets there, you've got, of course, Ballydoyle's, which has just been renovated. I encourage everybody to see what's going on over there. It's beautiful. Indiro, we talked the other day about Amore Mio, Alice's restaurant, and then the city's going to be owning the little parking lot over there, BB's over there. So there were some questions about parking, and we'll have some parking over there as well. You've got the glass hopper on the other side. There's going to be an RFQ coming out at some point, probably in 24, about that building. And then if you keep going, you've got El Pollo Hito, which is going to be in the Dakari building over there, the old Spizio's property over there on Lake Street. And then we just purchased the West Suburban Bank building. So just got a visual coming there on New York in terms of your vision for many years in Restaurant Row and really what's going to be happening here in terms of Restaurant Row. So it's really exciting. We all know about the reputation. Again, others are going to speak more eloquently than I can about it. But we go there for authentic Latino, Spanish, Mexican cuisine. Really has become the gold standard in the western suburbs and in the Chicagoland area in general. As we mentioned, it's a partnership between Jesus and Claudio. Ariana, Claudia's daughter, is here. She's been with the restaurant working 10 years, does a lot of the administration now, and quite frankly, has been very helpful to us in terms of preparing this presentation today. This is a family business. It's very important. Again, we spoke the other day about Amor Mio. It takes something special to really have a restaurant in Aurora. And having a family business, I think, is very important. What they did during COVID, again, others spoke about it. I would like them to speak about it a little bit in terms of serving free meals, making sure that the community was taken care of, was very important. They also went through the recession in 2008. And think about what was going on then. Again, 20 years encompassed the recession and COVID. They survived them both and survived them well. We all know the building and the restaurant as more than a restaurant, cultural mecca, cultural events, holidays, Los Reyes Magos, Dia de los Niños, Cinco de Mayo, banquets, open 6 days. We talk about these restaurants being open 6 days, lunch, dinner, extended hours. The center of gravity, not just for the Latino community, but the community at large. Somebody used the line that I was going to use about the Cheers bar. Maybe for Cal, we'll think of something even more grand, because it's really the Cheers bar on steroids. The charitable contributions are really magnificent. What they did during COVID, the scholarships, the charities that they support. In terms of the presentation today, I'm going to ask for the family to come up. Claudia, Jesus, Ariana, speak a little bit about the restaurant in their own words. Then we're going to ask Lane to come up and really show you in detail about what we're speaking about. Then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about the detail of the numbers, okay? All right.
And before we go on for the record, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that was Dave Debo, Director of Economic Development, that started out the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to my colleagues, is everyone able to open the RDA?
Yeah.
Did you refresh?
Yeah, I did.
Getting an error as well.
You got an error?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got mine.
I refreshed a number of times and I got an error. We got bad days.
I'm sorry, go
Ready?
ahead.
Okay. Hola. Good afternoon. I'm Claudia. I am owner of La Quinta de los Reyes in partnership with Jesus Sanchez. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about my background first. Well, I'm a businesswoman, first of all. I knew that when I was a little girl. My mom used to make candy for me to sell. And I don't know if I enjoy more the selling or the talking to people, but I sold out. And I used to get very excited about that. So I did that around, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. And so that's how I started. I came here to United States, started working in factories and learning English. Where you go, you got to learn. So I did that. But over that, it's just how I got here, older. I started moving up, growing in different companies. Eventually, I started my own business, Glance Boutique. That was my first business. After that, then Jesus asked me to join forces with him at La Quinta de los Reyes. So I started working there. And when I got to La Quinta, something happened to me. I realized that I could use creativity, I could use administration. I came in when social media started, so I was able to do marketing and brought the aesthetic to the restaurant. So I started liking it more than I thought. So together with Jesus, now as both of us working towards one goal and both of us loving the business, pandemic came in, and then I had to make a decision whether I couldn't do both. So the boutique was really, not a lot of people was coming out. So I had to be more at the restaurant. We were also short-staffed. So I'm like, well, I'm only one woman. Although I feel like superwoman, I'm only one. So you can only do so much. So that's when I decided to do my 100% at La Quinta. And as you know, a lot of people can say more than I can say, I guess, because I don't have a lot of time. But it's a family business. We are there. We greet our friends. A lot of our clients, they come in. They come in 3-4 times a week. They know us. They talk to us. We are very excited about the expansion and knowing that we'll be able to accommodate more people, adding seats. Weekends, usually we have to close the open table because we don't have enough space, well, especially in the winter, because right now we have the patio. So the patio will be the great addition that we'll be able to utilize the whole year. So I'm very, very excited and ready to work because as a woman and as a businesswoman, I'm always ready and ready for the ups and downs. We're going through a lot and we're here and we're ready to keep fighting for what we will live in. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and hopefully, getting us the help that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the founder.
Good afternoon. My name is Jesus Sanchez. As Gloria mentioned, we are business family owner oriented. So you can see one of the pictures. There's the latest addition to the family. My little grandson. 3 weeks. I'm sorry. 3 weeks old. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go back to the time. We were back in 2004, 2003. We started this project, at the building that you guys are known as La Quinta de los Reyes now. It was me and a few partners of us, We started with this vision of a restaurant. Even I was never involved in the restaurant business before. Always, when I try to do something, it's always, I want to make sure that I can come through and make sure I can accomplish what my purpose is for at the moment. So back in the day, we were focused on surviving and believing. Back in 2004, 2005, the Zero Aurora Special Downtown wasn't nothing like this right now. You cannot compare our downtown right now at this time when it was back 2005, 2006. Paramount wasn't on. The building was on, business wasn't on. Paramount wasn't driven like these days it is. You couldn't see it downtown, all the flourish, all the walking, people walking dogs, the bridge, everything that's come through the last few years has helped downtown grow. And a perspective, that we are growing with it. And I think a lot of us back in the day had a vision of this downtown flourishing compared to some other downtowns. But the real thing is that we have a real river, we have a real activity going on. So back in the 2005, 2006, we didn't have this opportunity. People didn't saw the downtown as a potential future for a downtown. And I had many times when we had a lot of people, actually, some of you guys were not there. I don't think none of you guys were back in city council there, but we had some people on city council didn't believe in what we were doing. A lot of comments, the building is too big, the restaurant is too big for a small town, for a dead downtown, you guys won't survive. So we heard all this negative stuff about us trying to do something for our downtown. And back in there, then we had our first proposals, for downtown, the redevelopment of the downtown. So there were some activities starting to start back then. So with all that passion, all that activity going on, and passion for what we do, I always thought with my partners, that we could survive. And we had some struggles going down the road. Back in 2006, the first partner wanted to go out. So we ended up making a deal, making sure he went out on a peaceful way and pursue his endeavors or try to do his own things. And we brought somebody else to replace it. So at one point, we was 3 of us. Back and forth, on the struggles. Then we started the recession back in 2008. there was another big hit that we had, So some of the partners tried the same thing, The hard times are coming, so they decided to go somewhere else, and we decided to stay. Why? Because we believe in what we were doing. We believe we can make a difference. We believe, that we were on the right spot at the right moment to thrive. Back then, and we struggled. It was a struggle through the years, but we promised the future. We were seeing the future, and until this moment, we are still seeing the future for us. Even though we struggle, even though we still were surviving and paying bills and making sure our rent was paid so we can be open for business. We opened back in 2024 at the end as La Quinta de los Reyes. Before that was Los Cabos, that we were there I was part of the Cabos partners for 1 year. So we go back to 2003 when I started on this pattern. Going through, we got at the point, La Quinta de los Reyes it is a small business, but we still, at one point, we used to have about 60 employees. We're not there right now. At this moment, we have 39 employees, some of them part-time, some of them full-time, but we are a big family restaurant with all these kind of employees and looking for the future. Our future is to grow with the downtown. Downtown is growing at this moment, and new businesses are coming, new restaurants are opening. The businesses across the street on both sides of the river are coming with more activity. I'm assuming there will be more restaurants, there will be more competition. All we try to do is make sure we are a part of this growing downtown. Make sure we are there when all these new restaurants come with these great ideas, because everybody has their own ideas, everybody has a vision for whatever you want to do. So we have to make sure, we want to be sure that we are there and we are the pioneers, because at one point we are the pillar of this downtown, like we were an anchor for many years. And we have to make sure we are there. And not only that, thinking in the future, we need to be at one point, every so often a restaurant for being for 20 years on the same spot, you need some renovations or you need some ideas to ride the future and to make sure, you create new parents, new people to come into your business. So you figured out a way to do it with a menu, with the specials, and why not with our gorgeous patio that we have. The patio is a big support of us. One of the reasons we survived pandemic without closing and without losing many employees was our patio. When everybody was struggling to get people through the doors, we had a big patio, and it was there for us, and we had it forever. This idea of the renovation came, that was the moment when it came, we said, well, if the patio helped us survive a pandemic for this long, why not do something that we can utilize 12 months of the year, during the year, and during the future to come. At one point, all this sound like a crazy idea. We talked to the right people, we did some investigations, and we got to the right people. They know what they're doing, and when we say patios, these companies, that's what they do. We got a company from Wisconsin, all they do is patios, commercial patios, and that's what they focus on. 100%, this is what they do for a living. So we sit there, talk with them, and have a proposal. And at one point, it sounds great, but as soon as we started pursuing our dream, we had some struggles to go across. At one point, we were under the impression that we could do this on our own. But when we started going to permitting to the city, we thought it is not as easy as we thought. There's a lot of things we need to improve. The building needs to be improved. So all this threw our budget out of proportion. So at that point, we couldn't handle it on our own. That's when we asked for help. So that's why we come to you, to help, to ask for us to be able to accomplish what our future is and what the city, or especially our downtown, needs in the future. We need something that is accommodating, something that is ordinary, something that you guys will see on the pictures, it will show the difference on our building. Or view from the north side of the building, it will change completely the one we have right now. And I hope it will create enough activity so people will see and we attract, so they can come through our doors and make sure, all we need to do is make sure they come through our doors. So we have the capacity, we have the food, we have the people, we have the charisma, make sure, as soon as you walk through those doors, make sure you go walk out with an excellent experience, and make sure you want to come back to us. That's why through 20 years or so, we have accomplished all these coming back customers for years. We got people that come to us 2 or 3 times a week. Those are our regular customers that we thank God at this moment we have a lot of them. And that's why we are, after 20 years, we're still in business, and we will promise you guys that we'll be in business for the next 30 or 40 years through the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, sorry, I'm going to briefly introduce myself. My name is Ariana Urrutia. I started working at La Quinta when I was 16 years old, and I've been working there for the past 10 years. So a little bit about, I've been working there in many different roles. Currently, I am an executive administrator. I oversee all the business operations under the current ownership. So I help my family run the business, and let me tell you, growing up, I have never seen anybody work so hard or so diligently, day in and day out, and so passionate about the business. And all they do for charity and the Los Reyes Magos and the children is just, it's just indescribable. And how many lives our family, La Quinta Reyes community has touched. That's something that you can never be paid back with. The goal is for us to be able to have this funding so that we could utilize the entire building. We need this funding in order to construct this patio so that we can focus on developing the rest of the building, because it is so important. Because as you guys heard, we've been paying rent for the past 19 years. For the past 19 years, we've been paying rent. We've had our hands tied, and we haven't been able to touch it. Now that it is ours, we want it to represent what Aurora's future is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
So go ahead. We're going to run a nice video that we put together. I'm Lane Allen of Allen and Peppa Architects. My official company name is Allen Peppa Architects Aurora Studio Inc. because I used to be in the Holbrook Mill across from the library. So I'll let you just concentrate on this walkthrough for a minute. So this is interior. That's the bar that you're looking at. It's a very simple idea. Now we're changing to night. So presumably the louvers are down, and we're seeing the mural that will be refurbished. And now it's day. And then the exterior of El Patio. I've been in business for 23 years. 5 of that was here in the Holbrook Mill, working on the reconstruction of the Holbrook Mill. I was also on the gallery in the lower level of the GAR. I've done a lot of downtown. I fight very hard for downtown Aurora. It's part of my fabric on this town. And but I think the reason why I was chosen by Jesus and Claudia to do their project is I do a lot of adaptive reuse of historic buildings. I'm the City of Batavia's architect on their municipal building. I'm working for the Forest Preserve of DuPage County on their Donata House. And so I do a lot of very surgical projects like this. I'm going to pass around the construction documents, and so you can kind of take a look at. It was interesting because John Curley and I have worked very hard to put this project together, and there's a lot of code issues that, and improvements, infrastructural improvements that had to be made for this. We needed civil engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and a lot of surgical pieces that came together. So I've just got 5 or 6 slides, and our presentation, this project really focuses on the courtyard project. But to put this project together, I think we went forward one. Yeah, you need to go back one. Is that possible? Okay, fine. Go ahead and go forward. So what you're looking at here is the night shot of the north elevation, and then there's a 3D perspective. I'm in 100% Revit, a 3-dimensional drafting. So we can be very surgical on how we manipulate the space. I think you can see the courtyard with the table. You can see that it's larger than their existing restaurant, and the upper corner is New York Street, upper right corner. Also, isn't it interesting that the existing restaurant has their kitchen, one of their kitchens, right in the middle of that, so it's kind of like a donut. So it's really, of course, all of the great views of the river are there, and they really make the most out of that space. But we're not just doubling the restaurant, or 125% larger than the restaurant. The efficiency of this space, because we got rid of the stairs, 2 sets of stairs, and a nice simple rectangle, only 1 column in the middle, it makes this space very effective. To put this project together, the infrastructure of a new water main, a grease trap, the exit stairs, but to do those, we have to excavate and, kind of get to the core of this and then rebuild it. Go ahead and go to the next. So, in this respect of the courtyard, which is the over 50-some% of our construction costs, piers, columns, north wall foundations, operable windows, the overhead structure with the radiant heat and operable louvers, pavers, a new bar, 3 stairs rebuilt, a new ADA ramp, an ADA accessible lift, a 2-hour trash wall, lightings, paddle fans, integrated trench along the north wall. So it's a complete rebuild of this area. It's also interesting that this is not an inside space, it's not an outside space, so the code parameters are kind of confusing on how to work through those. John, do you have any thoughts you'd like to add?
Well, I would just want to add one item. Lane mentioned that we removed some stairs and it expanded the restaurant. I believe if we had left the old stairs in place, so the itemized portion that he had shown were about just shy of 60% of the project costs that we're showing you today are the actual patio. That patio that we originally started talking about a couple of years now would have seated probably a fifth, maybe a quarter fewer people and been much less efficient. And we were having a bunch of challenges on meeting the code parameters that I think Elaine was hinting at. So in the end, the stair relocation, the new stair on the north side of the building, which if you recall, just less than a year ago, I think, the council agreed to a lease agreement with La Quinta de los Reyes to include a stair on that north facade and allow for the grease interceptor to be installed in a location just to the west of that as well. All of those improvement costs are in what you're seeing today, and that's part of the reason that the costs have expanded from what the original just a patio project looked like when they approached us originally. It is a little challenging being in a courtyard, as Lane mentioned. Additionally, would like to mention, I've sat in one of these structures before. It truly is a year-round structure. I sat in it in a very cold February morning lunch this year in Libertyville. I'd be happy to tell you what restaurant has it in Libertyville. But it was a fantastic experience and very, very comfortable. So I believe this type of system is great. And then I could imagine how great it would be with louvers open and you get the feel that you're out in an outdoor patio as well. Sorry.
John has been an incredible partner through this endeavor to get permit. Our current status is that we have permit, except that we need to put down a bond at Fox Metro for the grease trap installation. It's a $20,000 bond. And so, but otherwise, everything else has been cleared up. And go ahead and go to the next. So this is a nice overview. You saw it better in the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Go ahead. So to put this project together, as you can see in the construction documents, Allen and Peppa Architects doing the three-dimensional Revit modeling and all of the associated details. Civil engineering because of the grease trap, and then we've got a sidewalk from Broadway all the way to what I call the west stairs just before the river walk, and that gets us in and out of the courtyard. And the structural engineer closely associated with the patio construction. Go ahead, please. Patio EG was the original visionary along with Jesus and Claudia, and they're actually a design-build contractor. And under, I'll come back to them in a minute. You can see a couple examples of their work. They love aluminum. They cut it, right on the money, and they really know how these spaces operate. Neville Engineering is provided a lot of complicated backup construction documents for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Go ahead. So here's some details of some of Patio EG's previous projects, and you can get it. Hopefully, you can see how these louvers operate. And if it snows or rains, they're tied into a gutter system, so all that water that would be coming into the patio is taken away to a downspout system. And so it's kind of genius how they manipulate space because they're adjusting not only temperature, but also quality of light, a sense of airiness, which we all appreciate post-COVID. And on the north side, you can barely see it in this lower left photo, these windows operate from above. So you're sitting at a table, the window opens so that you're now outside. And so it's a genius little set of engineerings, and this is what they do. And you can see the memo there about infrared heaters, motorized roof panels, motorized shades, and that would also the motorized windows themselves. And they have an aesthetic, a very minimalist aesthetic in respect to lighting and fans. Go ahead. So our general contractor is TW Chicago. I've been working with them for numerous years, and their estimating systems are solid. They had 3 or 4 pre-bid meetings. We attempted to work with local contractors when the time came to get their numbers. They didn't come through, even though there was no reason why they shouldn't. TW, grabbed their typical mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors, and we got our pricing. And anytime we call and say, well, why is this number such and such? They go back to their backup. It's all very on solid ground in respect to. The documents that we produce are known as contract documents, bid documents, permit documents, and construction documents. So those respect the code officials' requirements, the craftsman's requirements, the bidding requirements, the estimating requirements, and they are the contract. We just sent over TW's contract that lists the table of contents of those drawings, and they're a legal document for this project to be on solid ground through the course of the work. At one point, we were in difficult meetings with John Curley and Jesus working through the details of this. And John made a genius statement that I really appreciate. He says, Jesus, we rely on the drawings. The drawings are key to respecting and helping contractors succeed at their work. And I, being an architect, of course, this is what I'm trained to do. But as a craftsman myself, a furniture maker, I have sensitivities to how people need to have the right information to do their job and to get in and out, also allowing for the inspectors to get in and out and do their work. It was really inspirational listening to Claudia, Jesus, and Ariana about the passion that they have. I'm an interpreter of their needs, and they have higher sensitivities about functionalities and details. So I have to communicate those essential details to the contractor, and that will be scrutinized throughout the whole course of the work. And in the end, they'll get back to work, and they already intuitively know how this place is going to work, and we will succeed at this project. Thank you.
I have a question, if I can.
Yes.
Since you're here now before Mr. Debo.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to get a feel for the structure. So the louvers in the top, open, close like this, correct?
Correct.
The windows appear to be
Go
like.
back to the louver photos.
Yeah, the windows appear to be thirds, like a third.
Yeah, that's correct.
So all right, so help me visualize when they
So-
open. Are
so
they
if I'm
opening a
sitting
third
at
at
a
a
table
time?
If I'm sitting at a table.
Right, yeah.
This window goes up.
Where's the window below
When
go?
they're open, you'll be setting a drink on a rail next to you that's got 3 windows stacked.
Oh, the windows are stacked then? They come up like
They're right here.
one here and then one
when they're-
here?
When they're closed, they lift them up.
So it comes down, one will stop here, one will go there, and then the other.
All 3, they all go
All right.
all the way down to the ground.
That's what I was trying to figure out, because I've seen I know a place, I think it's called the Spartan House, where they have the, kind of like the garage door windows, but this is a little bit different.
No,
This is
these are meeting the energy code,
Okay.
tight when they're sealed,
Okay.
and they're not nano walls where the whole doors open up like this and
Mhm.
get in your way. So they've done Patty Ricci has done a really nice job of integrating these things.
Okay.
And then operable shades,
Sure.
those windows that you were just talking about, those are operable.
Okay. I was just kind of wondering how that was going to go. I just want to get them. I'm like, go ahead, Alderman.
Yeah,
Buck.
Mr. Chairman, I need to disclose, a very long time ago, Jesus doesn't even remember. I did a case for the old landlord, the owner, their insurance company, involved La Quinta as the tenant. I have no current conflict with any of the parties. I plan on participating in discussion and voting.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Curley, go
I
ahead.
was hoping I could add just a couple things to highlight too. In addition to meeting all the needs and desires that Jesus and Claudia have, and working with Lane, staff has spent a lot of time and actually challenged them to make sure that we were paying attention to the impacts or opportunities perhaps to make the balance of the building's redevelopment possible or easy. Part of the costs that are embedded in what you're seeing today are running a grease line from the grease interceptor location, which is pretty much on the north side of the building, close to the river, all the way under a sidewalk to make sure we could capture a grease line or provide a grease line for an opportunity for an expansion of this restaurant, an opportunity for other types of restaurants on Broadway, so we can liven the Broadway facade and provide any kind of use that would need a grease interceptor. There have been exiting challenges to make sure that we could get out of the upper floors of the building, which hopefully will get occupied in the near future as well. So the whole project, the staff's been looking at the project as a long-term project with multiple phases, and I apologize for any complications that has provided the project, but in order to participate in the project, staff's been looking at it in that way. So I wanted to assure council that we've made all the logical extensions of this project or additions to this project that would facilitate the balance of the building being redeveloped.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry.
To that effect, this building is kind of endless. There's full basements everywhere, but the part of what John is referencing is I call the south building. You saw it in that historic photo, how prominent the southern building is. Other than the entrance coming in through that southern portion, there's a whole nother project here that we've analyzed and we are working on getting pricing on. So this building got a lot to offer the downtown, with $1 million view facing south and the river and the Paramount. And so we are working on that. We're working through it. So this is part of the momentum. Thank you.
Well, Alderman Bay, you have a question before
Yeah.
Mr. Gill comes back?
I don't know who can answer this question, Mr. Allen or Mr. Curley. Architectural fee and permits is $130,000. So are these permits one-time permits or?
I think I get, so in that line item, Alderwoman, we combined the permits to the city, and in that line item, the various fees. I mean, this project they've been working on for quite some time. So that include the architectural fees, the engineering fees, and the permit. The permit has actually been issued, Mike? It's ready to be issued. So it includes all that. So all those numbers together equal that line item.
And so the permit will be one-time fee?
Yes.
Or is it
Yeah.
every
For
year?
the project you've seen, yes. There's upper floors of this building that are yet to be developed. There's space on Broadway that's yet to be developed. Those would be future permits when we know what it's going to be and have those designed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Well, I know this is getting long, but it's a big building, and we just figured the revenue-producing aspect of this project would be the way to start. So that could help with the rest of the project. I don't want to take too much time. I guess somebody has to pay for this, though, so let's talk a little bit about the money and how this all plays. I'm going to do this real fast. So the project is this $1.7 million or so, whatever that $1.75 million, whatever the final. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but and that includes the monies that have just been spent and the additional money that has to go in. So at this point, we need about another $1.6 million at this point going forward, since the money's been spent. The city is proposing, so the owners would put in $500,000. Significant amount of money, $500,000, in addition to the monies that they've spent already. The city is proposing to take the remaining $1.1 million that's needed and divide it in half. $550,000 would be a traditional bank loan, like a bank loan. Banks won't lend on a project like this, unfortunately. But it would be a bank loan. We'd give them a couple of months, 3, 4 months, 5 months. I think I worked with CFO Chris Minnick on this. So we'd give them some time to get open. We wanted them to get open so they could produce the revenue, so they could pay the debt service and so on. That would be $5.5 million, $550,000 at 5.5% interest. So a traditional loan that the city is giving there. No, that'd be the simple one. Then you've got $550,000, similar to what we were talking about the other day, in terms of dollars that we called it an advance, that the city would get back through food and beverage taxes and sales taxes, totaling 4%. We can go through the detailed math if you'd like me to go through it, but we would be able to get that money back. Now, it would take longer. That would take about 12 years. If you really are a little bit conservative in terms of what the additional revenue is going to do. This is a restaurant that's doing close to $2 million a year already, and that should maybe go to 3.2. It depends. But to be conservative, we think about, or realistic, let's say, about 12 years for the city to get that money back. And we've incentivized the project so that if they are able to pay us back through those two tax revenue sources, then that would be it. If for some reason they do not hit that threshold, then essentially there would be a penalty where they would have to pay a 5.5%. We'd recalculate what the interest would have been at 5.5%, which was our more traditional interest rate, and they would have to pay that differential over the next 5 years. So as we keep doing these deals, we try to keep doing it, not just creatively, but we want to make sure the incentives are in the right place. And that's how I think Chris Minnick came up with that idea, and I think it's a good one. So, but the two together, again, the goal is for the city to get all its money back, create a win-win situation. I'm open for questions.
So real quick with the math. So doing about 2.2 million now, anticipating going up to a little about 3-ish, that's $1 million difference. $1 million difference at 4% is about $40,000 a year.
Yeah, call it $1.3 million. I mean, the way the math, the math, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's $1.3 million, yeah.
Okay, all right, I was being as conservative as I can. So it's about $45,000 extra a year in food and beverage taxes and sales taxes that come to us, times 12 is about 5.5, is that, or 550,000, is that how we're looking at it?
Correct.
That was a real quick, but I
Correct.
know, but I listen to you all the time, so I got that 4% in my mind.
Yeah,
It's
and
applied-
I like the $1 million too.
Right.
Chris corrected me that it was, that's the incentive, because the $1 million, nothing's easy. I think Lane pointed out, we're talking about, essentially more than doubling the size of the restaurant. So technically, is it 2 to 4? It's just, we're not sure. You never know. They're projections. But if you want to hit that 12-year threshold, it is an average of $1.3 million, an average.
I'm sorry, any questions from the committee members?
Just briefly, just for the couple of us who can't open this RDA, there are, of course, benchmarks in there for our 1.1, they're 500,000. We're going to be meeting benchmarks in the development and funds flow.
Yeah, well, in terms of certainly the disbursement of the monies, for sure. We're going to do it in escrow. And I have to say, of all the projects we've done, my hats off to John Curley and Lane. They've been working on this with the contractor. We are pretty confident, but it will all go in escrow. There will be draws, and we'll do it like that.
Okay. I'm sure that's the way it was, but
No question.
Can't read it in the RDA right now.
I have a few questions as well.
Alderman Warren, go ahead.
So timeline for this, once we hit go, what's the timeline for this?
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, but come on, Lane. The goal, if we could do it, would be to get open right around the Chris Kindle Market. It might be a little tight, is one of the reasons I said we didn't want to overwhelm you, but we're bringing a lot of this stuff now. But the idea, and I want Lane to speak on this, would be to get going as soon as we can, and then get done as close to Christmas as we can.
Jesus and Claudia are hoping that we can start officially a second week in September, but we need to start collecting materials and prepping and, seeing if we can get some of the other work done. For instance, the grease trap is outside. So we're quote unquote, a month late as it is now. So we're really anxious to get a contract and get moving on it.
And do you foresee, that's an amazing looking project, delays, is that stuff custom made or is it,
The stairs are custom made.
I meant that they're retractable and everything like that.
It's all, this is the nature of shop drawings, submittals, getting them approved, reviewing, verifying. The contractors meet some methods to get, so they are convinced that our drawings are perfect. And, what are those dimensions down to, it's funny because, here we are, it's like, no, it's a half inch more, So, everything's and these guys love aluminum and they just, so they'll make it right. But we have foundational issues because we're cantilevering steel out of the ground. We're going to do a lot of damage to that existing patio. There's just a lot of moving parts to the extreme.
And this was going to double the size of the restaurant. What's the current seating right now with the restaurant, ballpark?
How many seats do you have?
When we look at the space, the code says that we can be about 110 if you just do a square foot basis, and our current seating in these renderings is 145. So the memos that I've been seeing going around is 125 additional seats. And if I were to do a takeoff visually, what are you seating now?
Well, we have capacity, 110 in the middle, 80 in the bottom, and 124 in the upper.
So, they have a lot of diversity of spaces, and they've got 2 kitchens to be working on, one of which we're going to take down to put in the grease trap. So it's a lot of moving parts.
So essentially that patio will seat 20?
Yeah.
Oh, you said it's
Yeah.
okay?
And we've got a nice little bar, and, there's a lot of good traffic patterns that the staff can work within to make things happen properly.
Great, thank you.
I just have a quick comment. Thank you for bringing the presentation. It would have been very hard to imagine
Oh, yeah.
without seeing the pictures, and it is very
Yeah, that's a great little video.
innovative and nice, attractive type of restaurant extension. So
Quite.
thank you for bringing it.
I do have a question that just came up. So we have 2 kitchens now, right?
Yeah, one up, one down.
Okay, and we're eliminating one?
No, we're
Okay.
remodeling one to
Okay,
get the grease
remodeling.
trap system to the 1,500-gallon grease trap.
Well, good, because in my mind, I thought, wait, we're losing a kitchen, but we're adding
No.
people. That's
Oh, no,
a
no,
good
no, no.
combination.
There's one,
We order it out.
that donut is a kitchen in the main space.
All right.
And so we've got to, but because we're transferring current small little grease trap systems now into a 1,500-gallon, we've got to kind of, take this artery and go in the other direction. So we've got to tear up the basement in a short amount of time. So it's a real trick.
Any other questions?
No, motion to approve?
Just a comment.
Go ahead, Alderman Bud.
If we all remember back to COVID, there were a lot of things going on in the restaurants. La Quinta was one of the first restaurants to put in the outside heaters for the patrons to come. And we remember that. Everybody was doing the takeout or a form of takeout or whatever they were trying to figure out dealing with the pandemic. But you were the leader, not just in downtown, for the whole city. And we appreciated it and trying to keep things moving at that time. Who knew what that year and a half, 2 years was going to be like. But we wish you much success in this. It would be a great, great addition on New York. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Alderman Warman. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Bug. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes 5-0. Thank you very much for the presentations. 4-0. I'm sorry, 4-0. 4-0. I'm sorry about that. Anything else come before Finance Committee today?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Warman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Bade. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0, and we are adjourned at 4:40. Thank you.